Welcome everyone to our webinar today. This is our final webinar for our World NTM Awareness Month celebration. As you know, World NTM Awareness Day was on August 4th. Our webinar today is Meal Planning Matters, What to Eat. I'm Amy Liebman, President of NTM Info and Research, and I will be moderating the webinar today. Before we get started, our mascot Bailey would just like to remind you to mark your calendars because every year on August 4th, we will be celebrating World NTM Awareness Day. And you can learn more and get some really cool swag like that little dog handkerchief at worldntmday.org. Today's presenter is Michelle McDonald. She's a registered dietitian at National Jewish Health. Most of you have heard her speak before. We're very excited to have her back. She's been doing our nutrition webinar series for the past 3 years now. And we're very excited to have her here today to talk about meal planning, which is a very important part as we try to organize our lives and make sure that we manage our calories, make sure we're getting enough nutrients and enough calories to help us get through our illness. For today's webinar, you can input a question into the Q&A box, and then you hit send to post the question. At the end of the session, I will be reading out the questions for people to answer. You can also hit the send anonymously button and your question will post anonymously. We'd like to thank our supporters for World NTM Awareness Day. Our first World NTM Awareness Day was incredibly successful. We reached millions of people across many platforms. We couldn't have done it without the support of our wonderful patients and physicians, and these supporters, including Insmed, Paratech, AN2 Therapeutics, Spiro, and Mankind. We really appreciate your support. We also really would like to thank our partner organizations for helping us get the message out across the world. We were very excited to have all of these organizations partner with us this year to help spread awareness of NTM disease. And we look forward to working with them in the future. And we look forward to also bringing their messages to our groups to help spread awareness of all these other diseases so that we can help each other. Michelle, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Amy. Hi, everybody. Looks like we have a good crowd today. I'm going to share my screen. So I had a very specific agenda in mind when I made this talk, and it may or may not completely overlap with what everybody needs, but I was specifically thinking about people who I work with who have NTM, lung disease, and primarily people who are really trying to restore weight or maintain a healthy weight. I have been, even after working with you all and people with this lung disease for as many years as I have, I'm still surprised by how hard it can be to eat adequately. And that's primarily because, for many reasons, but lack of appetite stands out as a primary reason that it's a problem, as well as early satiety, meaning you just feel full on small amounts of food. And in any case, I'm just going through the introduction here a little bit. I've had the opportunity to work actually a lot more closely with people in this community, meaning that I've been working with some people privately, and what that has allowed me to do is really see up close and personal what the experience is like, what the struggles are, and then really try and dial the diet in the context of some very challenging situations to see if we can eat well. So I feel like I'm getting an even closer look in the past, couple of years, given that I've had a chance to work for a longer period of time with a small group of individuals. And I feel like it's just helpful to share that with the broader community, because then you'll have a sense for what I'm talking about. I really wanted to present a structured approach. And I also wanted to give an idea of just realistically what this looks like in terms of foods and meals, but also progress in terms of weight restoration. So having said all that, this talk is also applicable to everybody, and that includes people who maybe are already at a healthy weight and want to maintain that and just kind of want to know what to eat with lung disease. I think there's overlap across the board in terms of with people who are trying to restore weight and just maintain a healthy weight. And then I do work with a small group of people who would like to manage their weight in the sense that they're looking for weight reduction with NTM-LD. And this also applies to them or to you, if I'm speaking to you. There are adjustments, of course, to make because the calorie content and sometimes the carb content and or fat content are probably going to be reduced. The protein content won't necessarily change so much, but I will try and address that as we go through. So that's a long introduction, so I'll jump into it. I think I've accidentally skipped ahead, but I'm just going to start with a broad overview. So when I think of meal planning, I go straight for what is going to have the most impact. And number one on my list is picking protein as an anchor for every meal. And I think if you've heard me talk, this is not a surprise. I've also listed out some of the just easy go-tos, and you'll notice that there are a lot of animal proteins on there, from the poultry, fish, seafood, red meat, eggs, and dairy, because those, I think, when you have this disease, you need to open up your options as much as possible. And so I like to put everything out on the table. There are good plant-based options, though. Definitely tofu. Most people that I meet can consider approaching that if they don't already include it in their diet, but there's other soy-based or sometimes wheat-based meat alternatives, whether that's seitan, which makes a good sandwich, or tempeh, which can also make a good sandwich. And then there are protein powders and shakes, and there's a variety of them, some of which are dairy-based or particularly whey or casein, or plant-based. So, and I know I say this to people, and you'll see later when I put up kind of a table for how to structure this. I generally will say to people, you're looking for 60 to 90 grams per day, and the total amount is important, the quality is important, but also how you distribute it is important. So 20 to 30 grams per meal on average, if you're eating 3 meals a day. If you're eating more meals, you can have fewer grams, but we really are trying to hit a certain threshold at a meal. And ideally that is 30 grams, but that's not always achievable. So if needed, if you're eating more meals a day, you can shift down maybe to the 15 to 25 grams per meal if you have more frequent meals. And if you eat fewer meals for whatever reason, again, maybe on the weight management or weight reduction side, you can flex up higher than 30 grams per meal in order to hit the 60 to 90 gram per day goal. And I just put down 4 ounces. 20 to 30 grams per meal is approximately 4 ounces of chicken, fish, or meat. And, in my world, that's the size of my hand, my entire hand. It's not just the palm, it's the whole hand. It's bigger than a deck of cards. It's bigger than an iPhone or a smartphone. So you can think of it like that. I do think it can be helpful to get a scale and just measure these things. I tend to measure in grams because it's a little more precise. But you can do ounces, and if there's digital scales that are easy to get, and you can just get a sense for the sizing and the serving sizes that are appropriate. And you don't always have to weigh everything, but once you see it, you will know it, and then you can eyeball it. Okay, so I'm going to be a little redundant here, but I always start with this. People who are fighting lung disease, their needs for protein are higher because the immune system is in overdrive. And the immune system relies on the building blocks from protein to make every immune cell. The structure of our body, the structure of our immune system, it depends on protein, as well as carbs and fats and other micronutrients. But protein you can think of as just like the physical building blocks that we need to make things whole and make things functional. So in addition to this, I like people to, and sorry, let me go back to the protein piece. This is going to be true across the board, no matter what your weight goal is. It's super helpful for people who are underweight or low body weight because they're generally coming to me or presenting or are in a situation where they're in a deficit. They haven't they have had a drain on their system, they haven't been eating adequately, and they are literally, I talked about people being in a hole, like they're starting below ground. So their needs are higher. So in addition to everyday demands, which are higher, they're starting from a disadvantaged position. So I could easily argue that more than 60 to 90 grams per day would be preferable. But I am trying to temper my recommendations to be realistic. So this applies to everybody. It applies to people trying to maintain a healthy weight because your needs for protein are increased. And it applies to people who are trying to, say, reduce their weight because the adequate protein helps you preserve your lean body mass, which includes your muscle, but it includes your bones, it includes your ligaments and your tendons, all your tissues. So when you're eating fewer calories, the risk is that your body might start to dip into your protein stores in order to make up for the calories that you're not eating. And so when you're trying to reduce weight but stay strong, then it's important to get more protein. So the next thing that you do, so once you have decided your protein, I'm going to move a little bit forward too, and I can't see what I look like. So, okay, great. Thank you, Linda. So once you've decided what protein you're going to put on your plate, then my next recommendation is to determine what carb you're going to pair that with. And I put rapidly absorbed, particularly for people who, again, are trying to restore weight, because what I have found is that many people I work with have a very healthy orientation towards food. And so the carbs they're picking are very high fiber. They are very slowly absorbed, which does make them healthy. But in the context of trying to put on weight, it becomes a barrier. So if you're trying to restore weight, we want more rapidly absorbed, more refined, more processed carbs. And I know this might go against the grain in terms of what is healthy, but it's very appropriate to do, and it should change what you're eating. So you can think lower fiber breads. It could be white bread, but it could just be a light wheat bread. It doesn't have to be whole wheat. Same with muffins, which are like quick breads. Or pancakes or waffles. Think kind of the less healthy, think on the less healthy side. With rice, the white rices are good. Japanese jasmine, just plain white rice. You can do the minute rice. You can do all of this very quick cooking. Same with pasta. It can just be regular pasta. It does not have to be whole wheat. Potatoes are good. Looks like I put rice twice. That's a mistake. And then what am I missing? So all of your breads, all of your rices, your pastas, your potatoes, just things that would accompany protein. And then it's completely okay to enjoy some sweets. So put something nice after, maybe with your meal. Maybe that's jam on your toast where you weren't doing that before. Maybe that's a little something sweet after a meal, whether that's a pudding or a yogurt or ice cream. And that's a nice way to top off what you're eating. In terms of a goal, we're looking at 60 to 75 grams per meal or more. So in a given day, you're looking at something over the 200-gram threshold, ideally. And that is very counter to the current trends in health and wellness, which are low carbohydrate. Some of you may be familiar with say a ketogenic approach or a paleo diet approach, and we're talking about less than or fewer than 20 to 30 grams of carbohydrate per day. So this is the opposite. So having said that, when you're trying to restore weight, the amount of carb that you're eating and the type and quality of it, you have to adjust in terms of what is appropriate for you. If you are trying to maintain a healthy weight, it is appropriate to do more slowly absorbed carbohydrates because you're not necessarily trying to pack on extra weight. So yes, it would be okay to pick the whole grain flours in breads, muffins, pancakes, or waffles. It would also be completely fine to pick brown rice or wild rice, or whole wheat pasta, or a sweet potato, purple potatoes too, or do things like oatmeal. And I should have put oatmeal here. Um, Someone trying to gain weight, we would say quick cooking would be good, very rapidly absorbed. Someone trying to maintain or potentially reduce weight, something that's like an old fashioned oat or a steel cut oat would be completely fine and probably more appropriate. People also who are at a healthy weight or want to reduce weight could look at a lot of other whole grains that are high fiber, more slowly absorbed, things like quinoa or farro or bulgur wheat. Those are some of them, or barley. Those are more common, but there are many others. So that's the second thing on your plate. And what I started telling people recently is if you're trying to restore weight, gain weight, sometimes just an easy way to think about what to eat is just because this is kind of an American concept, but meat and potatoes, or some translation of that. So you're not starting with a big green salad. You are starting with the protein, and then what will help your body spare using protein, which is the carbs. So you're pairing protein, which are your building blocks, with your energy source that is also essential for when you are fighting an infection, because your whole body is in overdrive and your immune system needs not only the protein for the building blocks to help its all the white blood cells and the defense systems work, but it needs an enormous amount of energy to fuel that quote unquote army. And so that's where the carbs come in. And I may not say this enough, but carbs really help spare your body from using protein as an energy source. So when you have enough carbs on board and when they are rapidly absorbed enough so that your body sees them in your system and knows that they're there and knows that it can rely on them, then your body can tell your protein to do other important tasks. It can delegate, essentially. It can have the carbs on board for all of the energy that's needed to drive the immune system from an energy perspective and a fuel perspective. And the protein can go towards building block types of things, whether that's restoring you or making more immune cells, but it can go towards structural and functional things where it is needed. Okay, so what's next? In terms of fats, then the goal is to add them. And my asterisk here is whether or not they are heart healthy. And I know that may make some people uncomfortable, but for anyone who is low body weight or underweight, low fat is low priority. You cannot eat low fat and meet your needs and maintain a healthy weight. So you have to change your mindset and embrace some of the less healthy fats that you may have known about for decades. So I put everything, not everything, but some things on here that would be good to add in, whether that's avocado or guacamole, whether that's butter. I could have added coconut oil here. Extra virgin olive oil has a good reputation. Any of the plant-based oils are good. So avocado oil, sunflower oil, sesame oil, there's all kinds. There's walnut, there's flaxseed, there's corn, there's vegetable. Those are all good. Nuts and nut butters are good. Foods that are naturally high in fat, like olives, are good. Seeds and seed butters are good. Pumpkin seeds, all of flax, chia, and hemp seeds. What else? I guess, and their associated nut seed butters. I can't think of more off the top of my head, but I know there are some. And so the idea here is try and aim for at least 30 grams per meal. That's about 2 servings. Think of 2 tablespoons of whether it's butter or oil. Or maybe it's half an avocado and some oil with it. Or maybe it's a quarter to a third a cup of nuts, or 2 to 4 tablespoons of a nut butter. So that is appropriate, trying to give yourself permission to enjoy all fats is important when you're underweight, want to restore weight. If you are more concerned about maintaining a healthy weight or losing weight, then the thinking on fats will shift and it will go towards more heart healthy, meaning more unsaturated fats from foods like avocado or olive oil or nuts and nut butters, olives, seeds, and seed butters, and less of the butter and coconut oil. If you're trying to reduce weight, then this goal goes down. It goes down to maybe 15. Oh, well, you could argue that you can still have some healthy fats. We just don't want you to be excessive in the healthy fats. So we would be moderating the portions here. Okay. And then I've started saying this more, and that is to limit the fiber intake because too much is too filling. So fiber is going to come from fresh fruits, from raw vegetables, even cooked to some degree. But when it's raw, it's more filling, more resistant to digestion. Whole grains too. And then you could also add legumes in there, particularly like if they're not pureed or mashed. But what I'm finding is that most people, many people I work with who are trying to restore weight, feel as though they still need to get in the large volume and variety of vegetables and fruits and whole grains that is recommended for people who are generally healthy. And it becomes a barrier for them eating enough. And I'll show you some pictures later on that I think will demonstrate this. But I generally I'll even give people a target. I'll be like, you need fewer grams. So less than 30 grams per day would be good. You shouldn't get constipated in that range. But less is better. What I'm finding is that if people are trying to, who are underweight, trying to restore weight and they're eating more, they're picking more of the high fiber stuff. And it's just like, it's too much. They get really full really quickly and they just feel like they're maxing out their capacity. So one way to get more capacity back is to go lower fiber. Food will digest more easily, won't be as filling, and can potentially become an advantage. If you're trying to maintain weight or reduce weight, the thinking here shifts, and more fiber is not only okay, but probably better. So you have to flex based on what you need at any given time. Okay, so here's kind of the meat of what I wanted to share. And this, while this is somewhat redundant, I think it really spells out an organized approach that I'm hoping might help move people out of where they are into a new position. So if I were to give you a table like this, but have it be blank, and maybe that's where I should have started. But if it were blank, my homework for you would be, if you are underweight or trying to restore weight, fill in each column for each meal. And this is just a day's worth of meal planning. And what it will force you to do is, if your first stop might be the breakfast. What's your protein pick at breakfast? That is the first column. So if you're filling out this meal plan for yourself, you have to fill in what you're going to eat that will meet that goal. And this is going to force the issue. So you can't have cornflakes and milk with a banana and meet the goal of this first box. It's just not sufficient. So then you go down the line, and what you'll see is, again, this is oriented towards people who might be low body weight or underweight, but veggies, I intentionally wrote a small portion, high carbs, and there should be an asterisk there for rapidly absorbed. And then, oh, I wonder if people can see this. Maybe I'll have that going. And then the added fats. So again, if you were to sit down with yourself or your family or your partner as you're trying to come up with what to eat, my challenge to you would be to fill this in so that it meets the goals as stated in the target up top. And doing this essentially helps you fulfill what I recommend when I just tell people, here are your goals. But when you have a structure like this and you're forced to write it out, it becomes an accountability tool or a measure. And it means you have to plug something in there that fits the target. And if it doesn't, then you are rethinking what you're eating. So um, I'm hoping this might help some people who might have been previously stuck, because what I find happen is that people, they kind of have their habitual patterns of eating, and they don't necessarily stop and say, okay, let me start with a clean slate and let me start over. And they don't always know how to start over. So let's just go through this, and then maybe I can talk about adjusting it for people who are not necessarily low body weight or trying to restore their weight. But that is what this is geared for right now. So what you'll see is at breakfast, and I put some things down that I may have talked about before that I do talk about, but these are some of the things I like to eat. So if you're doing eggs, it's got to be two, because you're going to be getting about 14 grams from that. Then there's got to be something else there. It could be feta cheese, an ounce. You're going to get maybe 6 more grams of protein from that. I didn't write this here, but I often will put something like quinoa here, and maybe I didn't do that here because it's really high fiber. But quinoa is a high protein whole grain. But between the eggs and the feta cheese, we are above 20 grams. And then depending on how big the eggs are, I encourage people to get the extra large jumbo size, so you're getting a little bit more. We're hitting the protein target. Moving through, I'm fine with veggies, so I just, maybe a small handful of spinach, a little red onion, some herb, and then tomatoes. And then from a carb perspective, you also might need to work at this. So there's at least 2 slices of bread. There's going to be jam on that bread, and there's going to be a piece of fruit. So the 2 slices of bread might be about 30 grams of carb. The 2 tablespoons of jam might be 15 or 30 grams, depending on the jam. And then the banana is going to be 15 plus. So there we've met the carb goal. And for the most part, those are fairly rapidly absorbed carbs. And then we can add fats to it. So I would put avocado on the side or underneath the egg on the bread. And I would cook with some oil. That's what Evo is, extra virgin olive oil. You can also drizzle that on top. So that becomes a meal, voila. And then you can go down the line. So with a snack, I've got a full fat Greek yogurt there with granola. And there's also measurements there. The snack's not going to necessarily hit the targets for goals, but they will help towards the overall goal, daily goal. So if you look, I did add snacks just to kind of flesh this out, but the breakfast, lunches, and dinners are really where the meat of this is. So at lunch and dinner, you're going to see 4 or more ounces of some type of chicken, fish, or meat, but it could also be tofu. The veggies you'll see at lunch or at dinner are a small volume. Half a cup's not very much. And maybe I undersized things, but I did that on purpose. I'm trying to make a point that you really need to take what you normally do and shrink it from a high fiber veggie perspective. With the carbs, we're adding some type of bread product. Like at lunch, there's a pita and fruit. For a snack, there might be quick bread. I put the blueberry muffin there. At dinner, there's white rice and fruit. And a cup of rice, say at dinner, is about 45 grams of carb. A mango, depending on how big it is going to be at least 15 grams of carb. So that's going to meet your carb goal. And then always think about how you can add fat. So I would mix up like herbs and oil and drizzle that on top of the steak. And then I would also cook with like an extra tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. Maybe that's on the green beans, or maybe that's to cook the meat. Either one. But in summary, I think this is what I was really hoping people might reflect on and take and try to use for themselves. Because it will, as I've said at least once, it should change how you eat and what you're eating. For people who want to maintain weight, you may not need as many carbs or fats, and you could increase the veggie portion, but the protein stays the same. For people who are trying to reduce weight, then the veggie portions going to expand greatly. We're probably looking at 4 or 6 portions at least per day. The total grams of carbs is likely going to shrink, and it could be anywhere from 30 to 45 grams of carb per meal, or less. The added fats are probably going to go down as well to 15 grams or less, but not necessarily. That can flex. We just don't want excessive, as I said before, so we just moderate those portions. Okay, I'm going to look actually, just I'm going to peek at the chat. Okay, good. It looks like at least one person thought this was helpful. And then people are also talking about the Q&A. Oh, right. Okay, I don't have beats. Sorry, I'm going to just address some of the things I see. And I don't know if people can see the Q&A on my screen, because I can see it and it's just
Yeah,
harder.
Michelle, if you want, I can read out the questions.
Yeah, sorry, say that again. You'll read them out.
Yeah, are you ready to take Q&A now?
Well, some of the questions are directly related to what I'm talking about. So yeah, I think I might take what's up there.
Sure. So we have a question on powdered fruit and vegetable supplements. What do you think of powdered fruit and vegetable supplements?
Um, what do I think about them? Um, I think I think for the general healthy public, they are not necessary and more of a gimmick. Um, for people, say, let me just apply this now to people with NTM who might feel like they want to get more fruit and vegetables but don't want to eat the volume of vegetables and fruits. I think maybe there might, if you feel like you're getting benefit from it because you're cutting back on your quantity of other vegetables and fruits, that's not a bad. I think that could be beneficial because it might give you that peace of mind that you're still getting some of the nutrients, but you're not necessarily getting all that fiber that's hard to digest. So I think I'd be more open to those things for someone who is underweight and just trying to fill in some gaps.
Okay. Next question. I see tofu, which I love. My question is, tofu is soaked in water, which could harbor MAC. So I guess, what do you think of that? I
Uh,
mean,
right. So, and maybe Amy, let me know if you have any feedback here. I'm not concerned about tofu soaked in water because I don't focus on necessarily trying to control the exposure in the food setting. We just are trying to control the reflux that might deliver the MAC from your stomach into your lungs. So I'm less concerned about tofu soaked in water. I don't know that it would be more likely to harbor MAC than anything else that's food related and has water content.
and you can also cook tofu, correct?
Yeah. Yes, thank you. For sure.
So, I mean, the heat would probably kill it as well if you're cooking it. Um, how does the question in the chat, how does someone on a diet prevent new kidney stones, um, to prevent new kidney stones manage to adapt this diet? So
Um, sorry, say the question again. Maybe I can.
how does someone who is on a diet to prevent new kidney stones adapt this diet for themselves?
Right. So that's a more nuanced question, you know, depending on, and it also depends on what your weight goal is. If it's weight maintenance or weight reduction, that's a different, there'd be a different answer to that than if you were trying to gain weight. And it also depends on what type of kidney stones you form and what dietary factors would promote the formation of the kidney stones that you are particularly predisposed to. And a lot of times when I meet people with kidney stones, they don't know what kidney stones they're forming and they don't know what diet factors promote the formation of them. So that's where I would have people start. They should get that information so that they can,
Okay. Um,
so that they can avoid being too restrictive and also be very tailored with their diet.
yeah. Do you think beans are not a good protein?
No, I think beans are a good protein for sure. I'm sorry I didn't put them in here. Um, I think if you're eating beans with the other, in combination with a lot of the other foods that are in part of the diet, they're a good source of protein. They can be easily digested, although some people don't digest them well and do have trouble with gas or other digestive issues, and those could potentially be managed. But I think, especially for people who are vegan or vegetarian, they're excellent.
Okay. Somebody commented that this seems like a lot of carbs for a diabetic. Do you have any thoughts on adapting this a little bit for diabetics?
Yeah. So my knee jerk response is you've got to have perspective. So if so the question so I my first thing is I want to know, so how quote unquote bad is the diabetes? How high are your blood sugars? I generally see higher blood sugars as people get older. Um, so if it's not full-fledged diabetes, if it's pre-diabetes, if it is mild, you have to weigh the benefit of eating more carbs against the downside of being malnourished and having NTM. And that's something I try and help people do when I work with people one-on-one. We try and get some perspective on how bad the quote unquote diabetes or high blood sugar is, and then we tailor the diet to the situation. And yes, it might be appropriate to cut back on the amount of carbs. Then we're going to be increasing something else. We're going to be increasing the protein likely and fat. And we can do that. You can compensate that way, and that's completely appropriate. Um, but lastly, let me just say this. If you have, let's say, worst case scenario, you have diabetes and you do need to gain weight, having diabetes medications on board is completely something that could be a benefit for you and should be considered and is appropriate 100%, because again, we're weighing the need and use of a medication against having some health long term and quality of life. And I think most of the time the answer is going to be get a diabetes agent on board if we need to control the sugar so that you have the ability to eat more carbohydrates.
Okay. In the chat, we've had a couple of people observe that if they eat steak for dinner, they tend to have trouble sleeping. Um,
I've heard that a lot too, and it seems reasonable to think that maybe it doesn't digest as well for some people. It is tougher by its very nature. So my solution to that would be as move it into the earlier part of the day. You could eat it at breakfast or lunch or as a snack earlier on. And chew well, try and pick a cut that's going to be maybe softer, more tender, and don't overcook it.
okay. The next two questions, I'm going to read them both because they both deal with protein um, and some of them with calories. So the first question is it a good idea to add ensure to meals to add more protein and calories?
I do think that is a very good way to go about it. Yes, the answer is yes.
And then the next question is I'm a vegetarian and I do make an effort to include protein with each meal, but I also know that I don't get the 60 to 90 grams per day. My weight is not a problem. Do you have any suggestions?
I mean, it would be to kind of use a table like this and add more. So maybe you're increasing the portion of the proteins that you are getting. Um, Maybe you're adding things like nuts or seeds or a yogurt on the side or cottage cheese or something on the side to just as an extra added high protein food at a meal, and or maybe you're adding a protein shake. Um, and so I know this is hard. However, I do think there is benefit. And so I encourage people to just push their boundaries.
And also, I just wanted to comment because I've had to deal with this before too. If you're having a protein shake, adding 4 or 5 ounces of Greek yogurt can add 10 to 15 grams of protein, which is a great way to get some healthy protein in.
Yeah, for sure.
Medical cannabis edibles and tinctures help my appetite so much, but I've never heard anyone in the NTM community here mention it. Is there a reason? No, there's no reason in particular. Same with hemp protein and hemp oil. Hemp seeds are a great source of protein and they're complete, and the oil is heart healthy. So they wanted to, remind everybody that that's here and the protein powders are good. They want, I guess, can you weigh in on, you know, either of those things, the hemp or the cannabis?
Yeah, sure. I'm completely there is no reason why I am not mentioning the cannabis or the medical marijuana. For some people find that enormously helpful. And I do like edibles for people for whom they work. So I think it's worth trying, assuming it doesn't necessarily, assuming the any mind altering effects from them are tolerable or okay, or even preferred in some people. Um, so that's my answer to that. And then I love hemp protein, love hemp oil. I also think it's very healthy. Um, and so I'm huge thumbs up there, and I appreciate the addition because I don't always think there first. I'm trying to kind of go for what might give people the most bang for their buck or might be more approachable, but it's just as legitimate and still very good.
Next question. What about juices to get veggies without fiber and blends with ginger and turmeric and such?
Yeah, okay. I think that's a reasonable, a veggie juice is a reasonable suggestion. Just keep in mind that you don't want to fill up on a lot of low calorie juice because it will limit your capacity to eat. So maybe do that after you've had the bulk of your meal. And I'm fine with also adding things like turmeric or ginger. I think those are great. So I'm thumbs up on that. As long as you're not drinking those excessively and it's limiting your ability to eat enough.
Um, I'm just going to address the next question, and if you want, you can weigh in. But the next question is, what is the best method of washing fruits and vegetables for NTM patients? So fruits and vegetables, there are other foodborne pathogens that can be on your produce that's why they need to be washed. You have to wash them, and you have to wash them well with water. um a good way to manage that is to wash them in advance and let them dry. If you're going to cook them, then the heat's going to kill the NTM. If you're going to eat them raw, you dry them or let them dry, but produce must be washed carefully. I don't know, Michelle, if you have any other ideas on alternative ways to wash.
Um, to be honest, I don't. Um,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, and maybe there's someone in the audience who could comment about what they do that makes them feel better about that.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll take a look at that. There's a question in the chat. I have a protein powder, but it also has probiotics. I'm taking 3 antibiotics for MAC. Will the probiotics interfere with the antibiotic action? Um, Actually, I think it's probably the other way around. The antibiotics would kill off probiotics if you're taking them together. So you want to, like, maybe if you're taking a probiotic, like if the protein powder is part of your protein shake, have the protein shake, take another probiotic at another time, but don't take your probiotics at the same time as your antibiotics. That's what we always tell people to do. I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
good answer.
Okay. Next question. I am dairy free and there are many options that are available. However, I have found only one substitute for Greek yogurt and it was horrible. Is there any other option you can recommend for full fat, non dairy products? I'm always scouring the dairy section at Whole Foods. Thanks.
Ooh, I mean, I immediately think of something that would have coconut cream in it, but I can't think of something off the top of my head because I can't say that I buy those products either. I do have a picture with one of the yogurts that I had recently that was dairy free. It did have some coconut cream in it. I just don't think it's equivalent to full fat dairy. Um, so sorry, maybe someone else can chime in.
Yeah, if anybody has any ideas, please let us know. Can you comment on staying hydrated as it has been recommended to some of us? I think there's, always some concern about them drinking too much water, particularly if they have GERD, but hydration is also important.
Yeah, I think the place to start with hydration is that even on the antibiotics, you don't necessarily need excessive hydration. So it's just a matter of balance. And the last time I consulted with Dr. Hewitt on this which was now over a year ago because she has since retired. But this is a really common question that patients ask. She felt, and I would agree, that 6 cups of fluid, meaning all of the fluid that you're taking in from all of your beverages and all of your food, in addition to just the plain water that you may be drinking, um, 6 cups or about 1.5 liters is probably adequate. And most people are going for 2 liters or 8 cups of fluid a day or more. And we do think that that may be excessive and not needed. Um, yeah, so that. I think that's my recommendation. Keep in mind that, as I said, you're going to get fluid from the foods you're eating and other beverages that you're drinking. Every other beverage you're drinking, including coffee, if you're habituated to it, just not alcohol.
Okay. We actually have somebody who dropped into the chat a suggestion of dairy-free kefir for a yogurt substitute, which is a great,
I like it.
um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for somebody who's unable to do dairy. That's a great suggestion. If anybody has other suggestions, please keep them coming. Um, Recommendations for other appetite stimulants, natural or other.
Um, yes. So just briefly, we typically start with at National Jewish, we will start people on mirtazapine. It is an antidepressant, but it has benefits for sleep and mood and appetite stimulation. Um, we may then combine that, the mirtazapine, with other agents if we don't get the full effect that we're looking for. And their other agents could include Ritalin, believe it or not, which can boost your energy and then give you more energy for eating. We also might consider megace. Those are our top three go-to. We generally, though, will start with mirtazapine and then add on additional agents as appropriate.
Okay. So somebody mentioned to the person inquiring about yogurt, I like Kite Hill Greek yogurt. It is non-dairy. Kite Hill Greek yogurt. Thank you for the suggestion.
I've had that too. I don't know if they have a full fat version of that. I do like Kite Hill quite a bit. I'd like, they've got cream cheese that's good.
Hey,
Um,
you know what? Even if it's non-fat, it's calories.
yeah, yeah. I think the person asking asked about a full fat
Yeah. There has to be options out there. We will keep scouring, and if you have any suggestions, please send them our way. You have given me a lot to think about. Thank you. My appetite is poor, but besides Mac, I've had a Heller myotomy to correct an it says alkalusia issue.
that actually.
How do I tell how much that has affected my stomach fullness versus Mac? I'm not entirely sure what those procedures are.
I'm not either, and it may not be. It may not matter, and I hate to say that, but if you whatever capacity you have, and you have to work with it. So and then try and work around it.
Somebody is suggesting a non-dairy yogurt called Forager.
I've seen that also. I haven't had it, but I've seen that in stores.
Well, it's good. It's good to have these recommendations. Thank you. Somebody is saying, I love salads. Is this still okay to incorporate into our nutrition as an NTM patient?
Yeah, if you're low body weight or underweight, they really need to be eclipsed in your diet. They need to shrink and they need to be eaten only towards the end of the meal or after the meal with whatever space you have left to eat.
And maybe some more full fat um, dressings on them.
Yeah. Hope that was helpful. That was a lot.
Yeah, so we've actually just finished the that round of Q&A. So I don't know if there's more. You looks like you have more to present. So
I do. So I'll just keep going because I have more examples. Um,
okay, and if anybody has more Q&A, please drop
yeah,
them in.
it too. So let's see. I thought I had another picture there. Where did my picture go? Here it is. This picture was supposed to happen before the other one I just showed you, but here's some. I wanted to just provide some visuals. So on the left, we have an egg vegetable omelet. That's 2 eggs with my fixings that I put on the table. The bread here is dry. It should have jam on it. It just doesn't. I didn't do a full photo shoot for this. I just grabbed pictures that I had for one reason or another. And then you could replace the tomatoes with avocado to try and get the fats. So you'll see the carbs on there. Add the jam, you'll get even more. You can see the protein on there with the eggs. There's cheese inside that, and then the avocado would be additional fat on the side. This is a breakfast I actually just ate a couple of days ago. But I do like oatmeal. A lot of people I know like hot cereal, so there's got to be protein there. Oatmeal in and of itself is not a protein pick. So that's an ounce of pecans there, and that's giving me maybe about 6 grams of protein. There's, I don't know, 3 to 5 from the oatmeal. You'll see the dairy-free protein there. I think it was a store brand. Um, and there was almond and coconut. Let's see if I can read that. Almond and coconut based alternative. So I think there were 10 grams of protein in that. So you'll see, and then that pushes me over the 20 grams, and that was intentional. And then threw a banana in there at the end. Um, I do people who are low weight or underweight. I'm thumbs up on the bagels. They're just dense, they're yummy, and they're full of good rapidly absorbed carbs. So you can add more cream cheese than what is in that picture. You can add more lox. You can add yogurt on the side and fresh fruit. But just some ideas to kind of get the juices flowing. And let me go back. This is a lunch picture. It's just a picture I had. You can't necessarily see how much chicken on there, but it would be 4 ounces of chicken. There's a big pita. And if you're doing small pitas, you'd want to do 2. Some veg, and then a dressing on there, which is a tzatziki, and that has olive oil in it. Here's another just sample day's meal. You may have Greek yogurt for breakfast. That would be a protein hit. You'd have nuts with it. The carbs, this is kind of like what I showed you in my picture. There are the quick oats, the brown sugar, and the banana. The added fats are coming in the yogurt or pecans. You could snack on almond butter and apple, and it is not 1 tablespoon because that is not enough. You've got to find a way to try and open that serving size to be bigger. Lunch, we've got the chicken, broccoli, brown rice, added extra virgin olive oil to cook it, maybe some added sesame seeds for extra fat and protein. You'll see the protein shake I have there, and I always pair the protein shake with something starchy that will absorb it. In this case, I just put pumpkin bread and whipping cream because we're kind of turning over into that season, although maybe some of you, depending on where you live, are still in the heat. But we'll eventually come out of that. Dinner could be a sandwich. And so I'm thinking chicken and then bread. Fluffy bread that would be delicious and easy to chew and is good with extra oil. So I commonly in the summer will do chicken pesto sandwiches, and there's a big chunk of chicken on there. There's some goat cheese, there's some vegetables, but then there's that fluffy, yummy Italian bread, and I put olive oil on it, and then I toast it, and then I dump pesto on it. So it's oily. It's kind of an oily mess actually, but good. And then here's some pictures. So we've got the chicken pesto sandwich. We've got the orange chicken, rice, and broccoli. We've got the grilled pork and mashed potatoes. And there's the snack. We're talking a thick slice and more than just a dollop of whipping cream on there. Here's another example of a meal plan. So I didn't have a picture of this, but something that I love doing is I'll do in the microwave. I'll get a bowl, microwave safe bowl. I'll put provolone cheese on there, and then I'll scramble 2 eggs and put that on top of the cheese and microwave that. So we'll cook. Before I microwave it, I put in part of a portobello mushroom, some spinach, and then I cook it, and it becomes like little egg patty. And then I put that. So then I put a pico on a bagel with some avocado. Put the egg patty on there and squish it all into a sesame bagel. It's delicious. So again, I am pushing bagels. I don't normally do that, but for people trying to restore weight, I'm doing that. Snack, I threw in the cottage cheese there with some peaches. And then you'll see that there's the 4 ounces of some type of protein pick, smaller portion of veggie, and a larger portion of carbs, and then your added fats. So hopefully this is becoming redundant to the point that you're getting the hang of it, or you can start to look at your own diet and see it in a different light. Here's just another example. I will often do a couple of eggs scrambled, do an English muffin. I'll smear it with a ton of almond butter, put some honey on it, have a banana on the side, and then I'll cook the eggs in extra virgin olive oil. So the fats are coming from the oil and the almond butter. Snack could be a protein shake and a blueberry muffin. Lunch, oh, I have beans here. I've got my hummus. You can do, okay, so what I did for lunch here, I did a hummus bagel basically, with a little bit of veg on the side, but cheese on there for extra fat, and the extra virgin olive oil is actually in the hummus. Snack, we've got our Greek yogurt. That's a go-to for me. And then dinner, this is kind of an idea that I've started doing lately. You can buy, so basically just buying a roast chicken, taking some meat off of it, making a small salad there, putting some goat cheese on the salad, and then having a piece of bread dipped in oil next to it. And then you can buy these mini dolmas, and I happen to buy them at Whole Foods. I realize not everybody can, but they're yummy. It's rice wrapped in grape leaves. So I'll do that just as an easy side to get some starch. And then there's olive oil on the salad. There's olive oil that I would dip the bread in. And then I might add olives to that. So that's an easy go-to type of dinner, just really quick to prepare. Okay, so let me end with this, and that is someone that I'm currently working with who has NTM. She's 78 years old. She's female. She's 5'5", and I started working with her actually in May, end of May. Her weight would vary between 89 and 90 pounds. This is such a typical scenario. And this particular woman actually had been thin most of her life. So it wasn't like she lost a significant amount of weight because of the MAC, but she was thin. Here's what she is eating now. And so I just wanted to share this with you and make some comments, and get your mind thinking. She's very healthful in terms of her food choices, and I would say that that is actually a little bit of a barrier in terms of getting her to gain some weight. But she is very much on board and very much engaged in trying to eat more. So here's one of her breakfasts. It's a French toast. So we've got some good toast that has been dipped in egg and cooked up. There's eggs on the side, and then that white is a Greek yogurt. There's also extra fat in the avocado. What you'll see is there's not jam on here. There's kind of like chopped strawberry, which is good. It's super healthy. I would argue, though, that jam would be better. Why? Because it's more rapidly absorbed. It's easier to digest. It's lower in fiber. But she is trying to strike that balance between wanting to eat foods that she likes and she's used to and are healthful, and also trying to eat more. And she is running into I'm feeling too full. I just can't eat more. And so I'm keep encouraging her to eat a little bit less fiber and do a few more rapidly absorbed carbs. You can see another breakfast. So these are a couple of breakfasts. She does a breakfast tofu scramble. And you can't see inside of the tortilla there, but it's actually a nice, like, I believe there are eggs in it too. It's like tofu, it's potatoes, it's some vegetables and some eggs cooked in oil. Very high protein. I think both of these breakfasts actually are between 500 and 700 calories, so that's great. And then you can see on the side of the breakfast tofu scramble, there's the Greek yogurt with some nuts and fruit. I'd love to see more nuts on there, but it's a work in progress. So those are some breakfasts that she's eating. Here is a lunch and or a dinner. On the left, we have turkey with beans. So there's some protein. And you'll see some potatoes on there and then lots of veg. And I think, what I would say is it would be nice to see a little bit less fiber, a little more potato, a little more turkey, keep the fats in there, but maybe add some more, whether it's potato or another rapidly absorbed carb to go along with it. That could improve it. On the right, you can see a chicken kimchi pasta and a salad. And you can see that she's somewhat creative. I like the idea of chicken kimchi. But you can see there's a decent amount of pasta there and a decent amount of chicken. Some thumbs up on that. The salad looks large, which means I'm worried that it's going to be too filling. So what I would prefer to see is probably something that's about a salad that's maybe half that size and a big old piece of ciabatta bread. Some kind of yummy Italian bread that would go with that meal. Maybe it's French bread. Maybe there's butter on it. Maybe it's dipped in olive oil. But okay, let me just go back to here. those are some examples of what she's eating now. She has been able to gain approximately 2 pounds in approximately 2 months. It has been extremely hard work. She's eating over 2,000 calories every day and she is tracking meticulously. And so, for some people, tracking is an invaluable tool. And targets, I would give these targets knowing that I've seen other people restore weight with them, and it has been helpful if you can do it on most days. So calories upwards of 2,500 calories, definitely over 2,000 on a consistent basis is required. Protein, she's at 90, frequently over 100 grams per day, mostly evenly distributed. Her carbs are frequently over 200 grams per day. As you can see, a lot of them are high fiber. So I would prefer them to be a little bit less high fiber, more rapidly absorbed. Fat is generally over 90 grams per day. And fiber, I've encouraged her to aim for less than 30 grams per day. And it looks like I left the fiber limit there down there at the bottom too. But those are kind of the key things to look for. And I like the MyNet Diary app. I like MyFitnessPal. Lose It is also good, although that's towards for weight reduction. But MyNet Diary is the one that I often recommend. I think it has a nice interface, and it helps you drill down and look at each of these components, and which can help give you immediate feedback to help you adjust or increase where you might need to get more. And that's it. Looks like there's some more questions.
Okay, yes, we have a few. So, very helpful case studies. Somebody mentioned they add almond or peanut butter in their oatmeal and sprinkle some sliced almonds, just in case anybody's looking for some ideas for extra protein and calories. And then going to the Q&A, somebody's asking if canned tuna and salmon are okay.
Yes, 100%.
Okay. Are croissants good substitutes for bagels?
Yes, yes, they're not as dense in carbs, but they've got more fat, and they're delicious. So yeah, maybe mix it up.
Siggy's is also a good plant-based yogurt that has a good amount of protein. I've seen that in
Oh, I didn't.
Whole Foods.
Okay, I didn't realize Siggy's had a plant-based version now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good to know.
Mhm.
So I guess somebody's asking how many calories per day.
Over 2,000 if you're trying to restore weight. And preferably, I'm leaning towards, so the woman whose case study I showed, um, she's 89, 90 pounds. She needs over 2,000 calories a day. Um, so if you're anywhere in that ballpark, that's what I would say to you. And more than that is better if you can find a way to concentrate your calories and get it in.
Okay, we have several people asking for the name of the tracking app again.
Yeah, I like MyNet Diary, MyNetDiary.
Okay, and I'm typing that into one of the answers so everybody can see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody's asking, what about perfect bars?
I don't know that brand. I don't know if they're asking about what bars are perfect or if there are perfect bars.
I think they're asking about a brand that capitalized it. Let me see if I can find some information about it. Bars. Perfect bars. They're made by perfectsnacks.com. Perfect bar.
Okay.
Protein bars give the nutrition your body needs with a cookie dough texture you crave. I am sold. They had me at cookie dough.
What's the calorie content? What's the
That's I hang on, let me pull this up. Let me pull it up and let me see. Dark chocolate chip peanut butter. Hang on 1 second. Let's see what they say. Nutrition facts. 300 okay, one bar is 65 grams. That's how big it is. 330 calories. per bar.
That
20
sounds like
grams,
okay.
20 grams of fat,
Okay.
24 grams of carbs, um, 15 grams of protein.
Okay. So, I don't-
Send this over
high
to you.
calories. It's not as much protein as I thought, but 15's fine. Um, I wonder the fat is almost half the calories in that, which is fine. I'd wonder. I'm kind of curious about.
It's 20, yeah, it's 20 grams of fat, 4 grams of saturated fat from that.
Okay. I mean, that's a good profile.
Okay.
My concern with that is that it might just be hard to eat. Might be just this large bar that's hard to chew, hard to eat. But if it's not, or if it goes down well, digests well, then by all means, maybe rinse it down with some type of calorie containing milk, dairy-free milk protein shake.
Yeah. Somebody's asking, what about other snacks like chips and pretzels?
Yeah, those need to be paired with some type of protein because they're just not really any protein. So pretzels could go with hummus. The chips could go with maybe a cream cheese dip of some sort, but or refried beans maybe. But there, it needs to go with something else. It shouldn't just be eaten like that alone.
Somebody is also suggesting washing your fruit by mixing water with baking soda. Okay. Yeah. Like I said, you know, you can use tap water. You could just dry it off or let it dry out thoroughly. The more important thing is to wash your produce because of the other foodborne illnesses that you could get. Somebody said, I add 2 tablespoons of egg whites to my oatmeal. It makes it creamy and adds more protein. They add it at the end of the cooking. So the egg whites probably cook when the oatmeal's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I like it.
And they
Yeah.
also mentioned Lara bars.
Yep. Lyra
So
bars are good too.
somebody mentioned Lara bars. And we have another question. Uh, Somebody said thank you. It was very, very good presentation.
I know.
They
I just have this is so silly, but I just realized, oh, I can't start my video. I'd never started the video, but it looks like it says the host has stopped.
Oh,
Anyway,
I don't even know how do I even I didn't even know it I didn't even know it was stopped. Sorry, we'll figure that out for next time.
yeah. Usually I can be seen. I didn't. It's just a
Yeah,
test.
usually we can be seen. I don't know why we can't.
No, I dressed up too. I think I look okay.
I don't know what's going on. What about kind bars?
Kind bars are good. They have chocolate on them and they have nuts. So for some people, they didn't want to avoid the chocolate, but there are kind bars that don't contain chocolate. So I like kind bars. I would slather some peanut butter or almond butter on there and drink it down with some type of milk, dairy-free milk or protein shake.
Somebody is asking, they say when you type in my net diary, it doesn't come up. Is it all one word? My net diary?
It's one word. Yeah.
Ah, that's why. Sorry, that was my bad. I'm going to type that in.
Yeah.
My net diary, as so everybody can see that is all one word. And somebody's asking about Belvita cookies and Nature Valley bars.
The Belvita cookies are lightweight, in my opinion. They're low calorie, I think. They're low protein. So they would need to go with something, maybe a protein shake, maybe some peanut butter, something like that, maybe some cheese. I don't, whatever it might, high calorie, high protein, that might go well with it. The Nature Valley bars are also similarly low protein, unless you get one of their protein specific bars. Um, in either case, I would probably add peanut butter or almond butter or something like that to the bar to get more, to have it be a vehicle for even more nutrition.
Okay. Let me see. Well, we don't have any more Q&A. We don't have any more questions or anything in the chat. So I wanted to remind everybody, we have recorded this presentation. It will be captioned. It will be uploaded to our YouTube channel where you can find it along with all of Michelle's other fabulous presentations. And we will be bringing her back for more webinars. So don't worry, you will be able to hear her again and you will be able to see her next time. Oh, here, hang on. Somebody made a comment. Wait. Aloha bars, 14 grams of protein, keto crisp almond butter bars, 10 grams of protein. Okay, these are good. These are good to know.
Hmm.
Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate you coming and we appreciate all the questions. And we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. We will be bringing back more. And if you have any subjects any topics that you'd like us to cover, please email us and let us know. Everyone have a wonderful weekend. And thank you so much, Michelle. This was wonderful.
Great. Thank you all. Glad I could help.